The easiest way to solve a problem is to deny it exists. Today's science fiction is tomorrow's science fact. It takes more than capital to swing business. You've got to have the AID degree to get by: advertising, initiative, and dynamics. When stupidity is considered patriotism, it is unsafe to be intelligent. Suppose that we are wise enough to learn and know, and yet not wise enough to control our learning and knowledge, so that we use it to destroy ourselves. Even if that is so, knowledge remains better than ignorance. It is change, continuing change, inevitable change, that is the dominant factor in society today. No sensible decision can be made any longer without taking into account not only the world as it is, but the world as it will be. Those people who think they know everything are a great annoyance to those of us who do. It is not only the living who are killed in war. He had read much, if one considers his long life, but his contemplation was much more than his reading. He was wont to say that if he had read as much as other men, he should have known no more than other men. I don't believe in an afterlife, so I don't have to spend my whole life fearing hell, or fearing heaven even more. For whatever the tortures of hell, I think the boredom of heaven would be even worse. The saddest aspect of life right now is that science gathers knowledge faster than society gathers wisdom. And above all things, never think that you're not good enough yourself. A man should never think that. My belief is that in life people will take you at your own reckoning. There is a cult of ignorance in the United States, and there has always been. The strain of anti-intellectualism has been a constant thread, winding its way through our political and cultural life, nurtured by the false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge. Life is pleasant. Death is peaceful. It's the transition that's troublesome. Part of the inhumanity of the computer is that once it is competently programmed and working smoothly, it is completely honest. I do not fear computers. I fear the lack of them. Science fiction writers foresee the inevitable, and although problems and catastrophes may be inevitable, solutions are not. Writing to me is simply thinking through my fingers. I write for the same reason I breathe, because if I didn't, I would die. I don't believe in personal immortality. The only way I expect to have some version of such a thing is through my books. No sensible decision can be made any longer without taking into account not only the world as it is, but the world as it will be. I am not a speed reader. I am a speed understander. If knowledge can create problems, it is not through ignorance that we can solve them. Meanwhile, fears of universal disaster sank to an all-time low over the world. Humanity has the stars in its future, and that future is too important to be lost under the burden of juvenile folly and ignorant superstition. If my doctor told me I had only 6 minutes to live, I wouldn't brood. I'd type a little faster. Self-education is, I firmly believe, the only kind of education there is. Creationists make it sound as though a theory is something you dreamed up after being drunk all night. To insult someone, we call him bestial. For deliberate cruelty in nature, human might be the greater insult. Never let your sense of morals get in the way of doing what's right. When I read about the way in which library funds are being cut, I can only think that American society has found one more way to destroy itself. A subtle thought that is in error may yet give rise to fruitful inquiry that can establish truths of great value. The true delight is in the finding out rather than in the knowing. It pays to be obvious, especially if you have a reputation for subtlety. To surrender to ignorance and call it God has always been premature, and it remains premature today. Individual science fiction stories may seem as trivial as ever to the blinder critics and philosophers of today, but the core of science fiction, its essence, has become crucial to our salvation if we are to be saved at all. People who think they know everything are a great annoyance to those of us who do. Violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. People think of education as something that they can finish. The day you stop learning is the day you begin decaying.